We started our 3-week, 4-country tour of Southeast Asia during the beginning of the rainy season, but actually had some amazing weather. The first thing we did was get out into the countryside, saw a village with their terrace farming, got to the highest point in Thailand, saw some beautiful waterfalls, a bunch of lush vegetation everywhere. It was a ton cooler up in the mountains versus the mugginess of the city where we were staying, and just incredible to see all of these ferns, all of the mosses, and hike a ways with our tour. Checked out the rice paddies coming back, and then the next day it was Elephant Day. Got to see the famous jungle sanctuaries, feed the elephants with thousands of bananas. They are so hungry all the time. Saw some baby elephants too. I think the youngest was 2 months. And then at night, checked out the Mai Tai fights. Here's a little joke fight that they did for intermission, but the rest of it was super hardcore. And some of the fights early on were really young kids too, so it's a big cultural tradition. Really cool to watch. Then there were plenty of temples throughout the city, all Buddhist, of course, and we saw a bunch of people bringing their offerings. And this is the White Temple, our favorite, just so ornate. That was on the way to our next city. After we left Chiang Mai, we went to Chiang Kong, where we went across the river into Laos and then got on a slow boat, which is basically public transportation, had a gorgeous river ride, and ended up in Luang, Prabong in Laos. And that was another really charming city. Here we're at one of the high points on top of a temple. Great sunset, really crowded time of day. But the next day we got to get out of the city again. We like doing that. Went to do a trekking tour where we stopped at a cave and we got to hike all through these remote farms, saw these swimming holes, got to cool off, so that was a blast. And we ended up at Kuang Si Waterfall, the most famous in Laos, one of the most beautiful I've ever seen. Incredible travertine pools just terraced down the mountainside. There were even a few bears that were rescued from bile farmers. The next day we got up real early to do the Almsgiving with Buddhist monks. It's a 600-year-old tradition, really special. And then we made it to Cambodia. Cambodia has all types of temples, especially in Angkor Wat, which is near Siem Reap town. And the temples were just so old, and some of them were broken down. Just really a magical experience. We made it out of Siem Reap a ways to a floating village that was on the lake, and that was another whole other lifestyle of fishing mainly. And finally, after Cambodia, we went to Vietnam. Hoi An was our first stop, a beautiful little beach town, and outside of that, we took a day tour to some Hindu temples, a lot different than the Buddhist temples of Angkor Wat, smaller, older, but really still so fascinating. Our last stop, though, was Halong Bay, and that is one of the most spectacular, popular tourist destinations. We got on a boat that was 3 days and 2 nights, gorgeous views the whole time, a few different kayaking trips that we took where we could go through caves, we could see right up close all of these incredible limestone pillars rising out of the bay. Just the most amazing scenery we saw the whole time. It was the climax of our trip and definitely worthwhile. And we even got some really cool experiences like going on the boats with a few fishermen and helping them catch fish, swimming here in the bay, and even seeing a cave, because they have plenty of those too throughout those little islands. Our last stop was about 14 hours during a layover in Tokyo, which was a huge change of pace with a really modern, tech-oriented city. Loved the subways, loved getting views of the city, and it was just a really cool culture. Loved the skyscrapers and the downtown. Overall, we couldn't get enough of Southeast Asia.